Welcome to the 323 podcast, where we look at how faith and work intersect. Each week, we talk to business leaders and difference makers about honoring God in the way we lead, create, and serve, because in everything we do, our work can reflect the one we serve. Kelsy Chavez has spent her career helping businesses find their voice online. But about a year ago, Kelsy felt God calling her to use her voice in a new way. So she started a Substack called Fire in the Middle, writing about faith, family, and the digital world, how the digital world is quietly shaping all of us. She's an El Paso native, but now she's living in Lubbock. She's the mom of three, a marketing consultant, and she discovered that the most important message she can share wasn't for a client, but it was for the wider world. And in the spirit of full disclosure, Kelsy is my cousin. So, Kelsy, welcome to the 323 podcast.
Thank you. So happy to be here, truly.
So fun to have a family member on the podcast.
Yes, it's very exciting.
Tell me a little bit about your roots. You grew up here in El Paso, and now you're raising a family in Lubbock. What does home mean to you, and how did the Borderplex, this area, shape who you are?
Yeah. So El Paso has truly shaped my life, just differently than I think the average person who doesn't grow up on a border city, right? Especially having lived here and grown up here and then leaving, going to college outside of the community, and then, starting my career in Atlanta. But what El Paso really did was give me perspective. When you think about driving up and down I-10 every single day, from being a young girl all the way to being a teenager to growing into an adult, and looking to your left and looking to your right, and truly seeing the difference, just economically, where what we saw shapes our perspective. And it changed my life, truly. At a very young age, we had opportunities to minister in colonias in Juárez as 6, 7-year-old girls in orphanages, spending time. That changes a person really deeply. And those are experiences I would have never gotten anywhere else. But they shaped who I am today because they've given me so much perspective in not only how I raise my children, but how I work, how I communicate with my family members, with my community today, as well as my clients, and what I just want for people. So the city of El Paso, the border, spending time in Juárez as a young kid, changed my life. And so I have a lot of love and respect for this place. And there isn't a time I drive into town that I kind of don't have tears in my eyes because I am genuinely just grateful for how this place just shaped me and who I am today.
It's so interesting because I think so many of us who grew up here, the second we graduated from high school, we're like, we got to get away.
Right.
And there's a pull of El Paso.
For sure.
That it's such a unique culture. And for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with El Paso, our target audience of this podcast really is the Borderplex, but I'm sure we've got listeners all over.
Absolutely.
And we're one of the largest cities to have a U.S.-Mexico border. And so anywhere you are in town, you can practically see across the border, from where you are. And so a lot of people just can't even comprehend that, I can see Mexico from my backyard.
Right.
So for our local listeners, that's nothing new, but it does have a special meaning when you've gone away and then you come back. There's an impact there.
Yeah.
So before starting your Substack Fire in the Middle, you built a career in marketing, working with enterprise clients and helping small businesses grow their presence online.
Yeah.
What did that season, or what has that taught you about the way people tell their stories?
So I'll step back even further to the very beginning. I've been a salesperson my whole life. And so, thinking right out of college, what was my first job? No one ever goes to school and thinks I'm going to be a salesperson, right? But I got into advertising and marketing right after graduation, after spending time even just selling gym memberships. But what I realized is sales is marketing. And so regardless of what your product is that you're selling, you're ultimately marketing that thing. So, man, it has shaped who I am as a person, but it has opened up my eyes to, again, I talk a lot about influence, just the influence that people have, corporations have, business leaders have, families have, to share their stories and to share products and services as well. So again, I mean, 20 years in advertising and marketing, I've seen a lot. I have worked with clients all the way from small business owners that have, 3 to 4 employees and maybe a service-based organization, all the way to working for big names like Walmart and Coca-Cola, who were amazing clients. But it's given me a huge perspective on advertising, marketing, how you market your product, how you market your organization, and what business owners and organizations have the opportunity to do to share a message about what they want to represent and what their brand means to them. So it's been really fascinating for me. Definitely fascinating as I have gotten to this point in time in my life, as raising 3 children, living in a very highly in a world that's very influenced by technology, by social media. And I've spent a lot of time recently just digging into what that means so that I could educate myself, because I found myself hearing my children speak. And they were speaking about things that they were seeing online. And I was very quick to think, you're being marketed to right now. And so, again, some of those things are really what has stood out to me is just, again, the 20 years, like you say, and me realizing, wow, kids, you are... you're falling into what I've sold for years, kind of. But it's really educating business owners and my children about what that level of influence looks like. But man.
Yeah, my kids are a little older than yours, so I remember the first time I heard them like singing a television commercial, and you're like, wait, hold on, let's just back up here. These things are seeping in and now it's so much more subtle. And so we talk on the 323 podcast, we talk all the time about bringing our Sunday faith to our Monday work and how we market our products. There's integrity in that. There is truth telling and godliness that can come through even in how we market our products.
Absolutely. I think today, it's not always that I have to sit and read scripture to a client or like walk away with a Bible verse in an email, right? It's a matter of representing my faith in every action that I take. And that's taken a long time to feel comfortable in knowing that, again, it's not that I'm having to leave a track behind or it's not that I'm having to sing a praise and worship song for people to know that Jesus lives in my heart, but that hopefully I'm making an impact in the people that I do have an influence in, especially professionally, by just representing the fact that like Jesus lives in my heart. And that's what I want people to see. And so I encourage some of my readers even to reflect on that. How can you make one small little change in who you are today to be a reflection of who Jesus is out into the world? And again, it's not taking these like massive steps of like, wearing scripture on your back or wearing a Jesus loves me hat or anything like that. It's a matter of just being an influence to others.
I had a wise man told me a couple of weeks ago, if the next step seems too big, it's probably not the next step. And so for many of us, again, there are people who are handing out Bibles and praying for people in a meeting. But for some of us, that's a big step. And so the next step might be just looking at our fruit.
Completely.
And scripture says they'll know us by our fruit. And so what's the fruit? Is the fruit that we're selling products that may not be good for our client? Is the fruit that we're maybe fudging the numbers? That's negative fruit. But when they see, peace, love, joy, patience coming through us, that's fruit that people see. And they're going to be drawn to that. So
I think a lot of the word discernment today, and having discernment in all things, in your personal life, in your professional life. And it's, hey, as I continue to grow relationships with my clients, I don't want to just like sell them. I mean, yes, of course, my company wants me to sell them amazing packages and that are, high value and bring value. But at the end of the day, what do I want to do for my client? I want to do what's best for them. Right. And that's changed and shifted of my 20 years. I can think early on in my career, I probably didn't have the level of discernment that I have today. But I'm grateful for how it's evolved because it's given me experiences that I can speak to, and failures too.
Absolutely.
A lot of falling down, a lot of mistakes in my professional career.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, that have given me the perspective to have discernment today. And when I, again, think back about why I'm even writing, sometimes it's to teach discernment. I don't think people just think about that word and the meaning of that word themselves and what they do every day. So it's, hey, how can we start to guide people on what discernment means, not just in your own personal life, but professionally?
Yeah.
Are you really, being discerning in how you're leading your team? Are you leading with Christ-like behaviors? Are you showing them examples of love and the kindness that God actually instills in us and asks of us? Yeah. And are you being that representation as you present yourself and your business out into the marketplace as well? So it has been a lot of discernment I've had to use over the years, but through ups and downs as well.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about Fire in the Middle. So almost exactly a year ago, you were a busy mom. You had a full-time career. You still are all of these things. You're a busy mom. You've got a full-time career. You're helping people with their marketing. You are busy active in your church. And God calls you to start a Substack. And for our listeners who don't know, Substack is like a blog. It's just a platform where you can go and write, and we'll make sure we link to Kelsey's Substack in the show notes. So tell me, how did you hear that calling, and what happened a year ago that really made you feel like, okay, now's the time?
Yeah, what's crazy is when I actually think back on why even Substack and that platform itself, I honestly don't even remember what led me to that specific platform. Which I guess is what someone would say is just like a God thing, where it's like I just felt like things just came to me. And I just started taking action on a lot of thoughts I had had. I had been like researching, for the last like 3 to 4 years, researching and just doing a lot of reading on influence and the power of influence and just like how we have changed so much, and how we have the power to influence our children and leaders, and how we've evolved just as people even, and how societies have changed based on the level of influence in our life and what technology has done. So I started really putting my thoughts and my feelings to paper, and I was just kind of writing on my phone at night, and then ultimately I was like, why am I not sharing this? And having been in ministry years and years ago, having served in discipleship programs, truly, I've always felt God speaking to me and leading me to share and be an influence to others. I probably didn't always take some of those steps of faith early on in my career because I just selfishly wanted to be in the business world versus in ministry. And ultimately last year, I just felt this calling over and over where it was like, I listened to this message. It was actually by Stephen Furtick. He's one of the ministers I listen to at home when I don't go to church and when I just want to watch all night. And Stephen is just really powerful. And he had this message. It was like, one day win, or I can't even remember the title, but it was like, instead of thinking about win, W-H-E-N, it's thinking about win, W-I-N. And it really resonated with me we always think to ourselves, when I finish writing this, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. When I finish this, it's going to lead me to this next path.
Or when my kids are this age, or when I get to this point in my career, or
absolutely.
There's always a win.
There's always a win. Yeah. Like when I'm done with this, I'm going to finally do it, And instead of thinking that way, it was like, man, God is asking you for a little win right now. And the win is W-H-I-N.
No, W-I-N.
Yes. Again, W-I-N.
Yes.
And it's like, man, take that little step of faith every single time.
Yeah.
And I have turned my back on those little steps of faith so many times that it was, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
It was funny. The day I wrote my first Substack, I sent a message to a woman who has been an influence in my life, almost like a second mom to me. Before I even sent my own mom that I published it, because Lori, her name is Lori Butler. She's my best friend's mother. And she had encouraged me before, oh, you should write that. You should publicize that. You should share that message. And she was the first person that was like, one night I just created the Substack. I did it. I posted my first thing, and I didn't think about it. I just did it. And I sent her the message. I said, you'd be so proud of me.
Aww.
I finally just took that step. Again, just having that one person in your corner who supports you and encourages you. But I took that little step of winning, and I've been trying to do that every single time. Instead of holding back, just like knowing that God is speaking and God has a plan. And rather than waiting for that next thing to happen, I'm going to take the little wins and see how they evolve.
I love it. Such a bold step, especially because so many of the topics that you're covering in Fire in the Middle really do relate back to marketing and influence.
For sure.
And how that's impacting our kids. And so there's a tension there of you in your day job are selling marketing services, and then you have God laying on your heart, like, to really almost be a media critique of of what is happening and how are we stewarding that well. And so tell me how it's been received so far.
Yeah, I think it's, within my own community, like right now, it's like I have this small little following of my friends and my family members. And so it's kind of neat that I see, my friends in my community who may be reading something I've written in there, give me positive words of encouragement, but also reflecting on how it's changed them, certain things that I've written about just, man, sometimes I'll think back to this one article I wrote about being busy. It's so easy for us to be like, oh, I'm so busy, I can't get to that right now. And it's like, since when was like busy like an honor? And I was like, why do we have to act like we're so busy rather than, again, like just like God was calling on my life, just take actions and do.
Yeah.
Like, instead of feeling so overwhelmed that you're busy all the time, like, maybe do it with a little bit more gratitude, because it's so easy for us to feel like, oh man, my schedule is so packed, I can't get to that right now. And it's like, that's not a badge to wear.
Yeah.
It's actually something we should lay down in front of the Lord and just continue to move on with the fact that, man, we have gratitude for as busy as we could potentially be in our lives, rather than thinking of it as being something overwhelming. Face it with a little bit more gratitude, So I hear at least, some of my friends give me positive words of encouragement that do keep me going. But at the end of the day, what really keeps me motivated is my children, and the fact that we're just going to continue to see more influence in our lives spread through what technology has done in our lives today. And, I talk to my husband about this a lot. Influence isn't new.
No.
Influence is not new. So what I'm talking about isn't revolutionary when it comes to influence. Yeah. But what is new is the fast pace every single day in your face, being marketed to, being advertised to, someone's message, someone trying to give you their opinion. And that's where I think of like the word discernment. Like, if we can try to teach discernment in leadership, if we can teach discernment in schools, if we can teach discernment to our children and our families, shouldn't that allow us to hopefully have a little bit discernment when we are seeing this information put in front of us? And it's like, man, I don't have to be influenced so heavily based on what XYZ or this person says. It's like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to think a little bit differently.
Yeah. Well, I think AI makes that even more important.
For sure.
I was just reading something even this morning that was saying we cannot abdicate our discernment and the Lord's voice to AI.
Right.
So it would be very, we don't know what to do when we're facing a challenge with our kids. It'd be very tempting to just go to AI.
Oh, for sure.
And what should I do, as opposed to stopping and spending time in prayer, spending time in the Lord, spending time hearing God's voice.
Yes.
And that's true in leading our kids. That's true in leading our businesses, in leading our teams.
Right.
that's every area of our life. And I
Right.
think there's just so many more opportunities for influence than we've ever had. It's all around us.
It's all around us. And it's just constant.
Yeah.
I see it in my children's lives. I see it in their actions that they take. I'll tell you a quick story the other day, and I caught myself laughing. You know, an 8-year-old girl, two 8-year-old girls and a 10-year-old girl. You know, squishies are like the biggest thing right now.
Okay.
Everybody wants a squishy. And so they were online. They had, earned themselves some money, so they were going to go buy a squishy. Well, of course, they're on a platform looking at buying these squishies. And on the bottom, it says like 3 more.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
Sure.
these 8-year-old girls, these are the we have to hurry up. These are the last ones. In their 8-year-old mind, they literally thought they were like there were no more in the world.
Right.
That's how much it means for them, because their brains just aren't developed the same way to reason as an adult. But so you got to think, man, what we're putting in front of our children today for them to have that thought process is really powerful, because like they legitimately thought there were only 3 banana squishies left in the world. And it was like, no, what do I want to do for my kids? And to help parents, leaders, educators do is like, that is not reality.
Yeah.
And if we can take some steps back, and I'm not saying that that was wrong of the advertiser who was marketing it that way, but that is advertising and marketing.
Yeah.
And again, I've been guilty of putting those messages out for clients, but it's not guilt. It's like, that's what you're doing to create enterprise at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
But I want to teach discernment in my children and in others to realize like, that's not what we need to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. And just questioning, I've got 2 children, and one who will remain nameless has a tendency to believe anything he sees in a YouTube video.
Yes.
And man, at an earlier and early age, we have to help our kids
For sure.
learn how to discern truth and God's voice in the midst of those messages, and too in the workplace.
Oh, completely.
We have those same influences on us as we decide, make decisions in our business. And so
Right.
how do we cut through the noise, to hear that discernment? So
Right.
we've got a few minutes left. How
Yes.
did you pick the name Fire in the Middle?
Man, so when I think of, number one, I think about Christ in my life. He is just constantly burning in me. And when you think about fire, sometimes it's easy for people to think of fire and like think of fire as destruction. But when you really think about Christ and his word, it is meant as fire for refinement.
Yes, amen.
And it's not, I'm burning the walls down. It's, I am burning a fire and I am lighting that fire in you. And when you think about the middle, it is not middle ground. It is God in the middle of all things.
I love it.
And so, again, it's very easy to think like middle. Oh, she's got this middle perspective. And it's like, yeah, kind of. But at the same time, guess who's going to meet you right there in the middle? So that's where fire in the middle came from. And, I spent a lot of time researching it. And there's some good scriptures that you can think back of, Moses and that fire, where
the
he
burning
meets
bush,
you is
yeah.
right in the middle of it. So it's been a fun thing that in me, it just really rejuvenates. And I love sharing the stories about it as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we have just a few minutes left. What do you feel God's leading you to right now?
Yeah. Of course, continuing in my job and working for the company I work for with Haibu today, I love being able to share and be a representation of who God is and who Jesus is in my life to my clients. I love my clients and I love being an influence to them by just sharing a little bit of Jesus's love. And I'm grateful for that in my community. Thankfully, I live in a community where a lot of my clients are believers as well. But where I see God really calling on my life is to share more through my writing. I'm also working really closely with my church right now and building community and the importance of community, but also business for transformation, and letting business owners know that they can be kingdom builders at the same time of building an enterprise. So again, it's kind of a lot, and I know we don't have all the time to go into it today, but hopefully I can come back another time and share a little bit more about what that looks like. But I'm super grateful for just taking those small little wins and those small little steps on where God is calling me. And, it's never that he hasn't been here. It's a matter of actually he's been waiting on me. Yeah. I'm not waiting on him to speak to me. He's waiting on me to take action on what he's been calling me to do my whole life. So
I love that. Well, that's a takeaway for us. I realize it wasn't your original thought, but I think it's such a good message for today of stop saying WHEN and start saying WIN. What is the win God has for me today?
Yeah.
So, Kelsy, we are going to link to your Substack and to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. So whether you're on a podcast app or whether you're on YouTube, just check out those show notes and we'll link to that. But I just really appreciate you coming and sharing your heart.
Absolutely.
And you really are out there speaking truth that is resonating with a lot of people. So I would encourage our listeners to go and check it out and read your Substack. So Kelsy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thankful to be here and grateful for you. So awesome. It's been a very cool experience. So I appreciate you including me.
Of course. All right, listeners, we will see you next week. If God is writing a story in your workplace, we'd love to hear about it. You can share it with us by visiting 323podcast.com. That's the numbers 323podcast.com. We'll be back again next week with more great conversations on connecting your Sunday faith to your Monday life. Until then, may God bless your work this week. May He renew your strength, deepen your joy, and remind you that you're serving Him in all you do.